it's another must-win situation. If the guy on the right on your screen right now loses, he is out of the tournament, and DRG goes to the finals. But it is time to start the game. Here we are on Cloud Kingdom.
Yes, and down to the bottom left-hand corner of the map, up 2-1 in the set. Just one game away from advancing to the grand finals here at Fight Club at Hot Import Nights LA is MVP.DongRaeGu. And his opponent in the top right-hand corner, our blue Terran player from Slayers, needing to tie things up right here or go home. It is MMA.
And MMA, man, I mean, he has played pretty well this entire tournament, but you can really see just how much even great Terrans struggle against Zerg right now. I mean, we are looking at the best Zerg in the world right now still, but MMA, you know, he's one of the best Terrans in the world. It's not like we have a big, you know, skill imbalance between these two players. They're both pretty even, as we've seen from the previous series that they've played in different tournaments. So I'm really, really curious, what is MMA going to open with right now? That's kind of the big question in Terran versus Zerg. What do you use as your opening?
This is a pretty quick SEV out once
Yes,
again.
it is.
And there are a lot of places on Cloud Kingdom that are pretty easy to hide barracks at. He has gone with the 12-14 double racks both times, and as we can see, a second SEV is behind, so he's going to hide some barracks one more time.
Oh, man, I think you're right, and he's going to put it right next to Xel'Naga Tower and right in front of that drone from DRG. DRG scouting pretty early and finding it immediately. What is MMA going to do? Is he going to go ahead and go through with it? Remember, he did proxy 2 barracks last game, was scouted very early, and still was able to win. It looks like it's going to be just 1 this time.
Yeah, and looks like DongRaeGu trying to do a little bit of additional damage and stop these barracks before they're able to come up. But one of these drones is actually almost ready to fall here, so he's certainly going to have to be careful with his drone control. 3 pulled off the line now. That's 1 additional worker than MMA has been forced off. So all he needs to do now is just finish. Oh, no! He almost gets the drone, and he loses his other SEV as well, and he's going to have to cancel the barracks.
Oh, that is terrible for Slayers MMA. His barracks is going to be so delayed. He's going to have to cancel that one, restart that one that we're seeing there. It's going to definitely slow things down quite a bit, and DRG is going to feel pretty comfortable now. At the very least, he knows he's going to have to, or not going to have to rather, worry about any really early pressure from his Terran opponent. That was the most complicated drone battle I've seen, or worker battle, since Naniwa Pro Russian ST.
Well, DongRaeGu is expanding out of this now, and MMA is going to have to do the same. Yeah, it looks like he is putting up a command center back at home.
It makes sense.
Otherwise, he would just been dead. I mean, if he tries to go 1 base, it's just not going to work. If he, but he's so far behind now, he has to balance between staying safe against any sort of early pressure from DongRaeGu, which is pretty common on this map. I mean, if you think about it, if you decide to go for a roach rush, you can actually go up and around the side and attack on an even ground expansion rather than trying to go up a ramp. So there are certainly possibilities for DongRaeGu to hit some early aggression.
Yeah, and although MMA's second command center isn't really going to be that much later, everything else is going to be a lot later. You know, the defense that he needs to handle any sort of early pressure from his opponent is going to get there, you know, just that much later. About probably 30 to 45 seconds. That's a big window for DRG to do damage. And look at this. He's getting a very quick gas. Now, that could just be for some early Zergling speed, but it could also be for very early Roach aggression, too.
Yeah, it's a weird position, though, because he was forced to put up that gas a lot later than if he was just taking it at a normal time, but not late enough that he could go easily for a 4-queen build. So he's going to be sitting on a surplus of minerals for a while, and I'll be really curious to see what he does with those.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot he can do. I'm guessing it's probably going to be a couple more queens. And does he have any queued up, or is that going to be
I think that's it. Just 2 for now.
Okay, yeah. So he does have those minerals spoken for. MMA getting his factory right now, as well as his second orbital command. And what will he do after that? I mean, he can decide to go for reactored Hellions. You know, Cloak Banshees wouldn't be the worst option at all here either. He is going to go for reactored Hellions. All right.
Yeah, just a reactor back at home, and we'll see now it's actually a second gas once again coming out for DongRaeGu, so very early second gas, and we saw some aggressive play out of him last time.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll see. MMA getting that bunker really early, doesn't want to die to any really, really early moves from DRG, and notice the bunker positioning too. This is something that a lot of Terran players have been doing. They put the bunker kind of tucked back a little bit farther there just because there's been a prevalence of early speedling attacks in ZVT lately. But DRG going for the Roach Warren yet again.
Man, all right. Well, we'll see if he's going to be able to follow through with this. We saw it work pretty well when he tried it initially, and DongRaeGu has gone for some pretty quick strategies, some in response, some but I don't know how this is going to work out for him. MMA going ahead and putting down a double starport back at home.
And it's not just going to be one Banshee, it's going to be double Banshee. 2-port Banshee from MMA after that expansion here. And with that bunker positioning, as long as he's careful, he should be able to hold that off. If he does hold that off and has a ton of Banshees out right now, DRG may not be able to respond quick enough to prevent MMA from doing a lot of damage. So this is going to be a very, very tense next couple minutes.
This is going to come down to the wire because DRG is still going to do damage. The question is, how much damage is he going to do? If MMA has enough to stabilize, not really take all that much economic damage, then he's going to be in a just fine position because his opponent is cutting at 36 workers and MMA will have a decisive tech advantage.
Yeah, so DRG already moving across the map with those speedlings and his roaches. MMA has his first Banshee on the way, and although DRG is not going to be able to really hit anything MMA has or in the air with his roaches, it's still going to take a long time for MMA to kill off those units. And you know what? He's moving all those SCVs back into his main. He knows something's up here, and DRG moving in right now.
Yeah, and it looks like MMA going to continue to heal up this bunker. He's got to do that for as long as possible for the first couple of Banshees to come out. The first one is out on the field. 2 more are being produced. The second one is about halfway finished, and the bunker finally does go down. The roach is taking a little bit of damage now, but there is a bunker up at the top as well, so MMA going to be able to hold on for a little while.
Yep, that's right. He's going to just let his command center sit there and take some damage for a little while. Now he does lift it. Now that he's got some SCVs in position, and he's even going to move down the ramp with this too. It looks like maybe the Banshee doing a pretty good job of pushing back DRG. And so now we're in a situation where although DRG has prevented some mining, he's used a lot of larva on all these units that he hasn't been able to do a lot of damage with. So that's going to give MMA a pretty decent economic situation here. And another
little circling run by, but MMA is able to save all of his SCVs there, so keeps a few units down at the bottom. And double port cloak Banshee, even when you have the amount of spore colors that we see coming up from DRG, which again he has to sacrifice workers, he has to put those up one at a time that he doesn't necessarily want to. Can still do a ton of damage.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's some people that would say a spore crawler essentially costs you 3 workers because at this point in the game, you want to be making more or less nothing but drones. But if you have to make a spore crawler, you're using 1 drone to do it. Plus, you're spending the 100 minerals that could have been 2 more drones, too. So it is very costly to defend against something like that. How many queens does DRG have right now as well? 5 queens. So he is in pretty good shape as far as that goes. But we'll see. I mean, MMA can't move too far out because DRG does still have a lot of units out on the map.
Yeah, but these Zerglings unfortunately not going to get a whole lot done here as soon as he sends a few Marines down. Unfortunately, all the Marines are off to the left-hand side, though, so once again he has to run away those SCVs, losing yet more mining time.
Yep, that's right. MMA, though, still keeping up more or less with his opponent in supply. Cloak about to finish for those Banshees.
Yeah, and nice shot picking off a couple of creep tumors there. None of them are actually canceled, and 3 Banshees can DPS down to Queen very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So DRG needs to be really careful, too, that he doesn't just immediately lose his Queens. There is the Cloak, but with the Spore Crawler there, it will be able to see a lot of that. Spore Crawlers do detect invisible units, but MMA, with a ton of DPS, the Marines added onto this as well.
Yeah, and he's kind of using these as siege tanks. He keeps pulling back into the range of the siege line, essentially. So this is really cool stuff, I have to say, out of MMA. He's going to try and take out a couple of Spore Crawlers here so we can get him a little bit closer with those Banshees. One of them finally does go down.
He does still have 4 left, though, which is an absolute ton. MMA, though, losing the rest of his Marines. Looks like 1, maybe none live. So now all he does have are those Banshees, and he is going to focus down that 1 Spore Crawler. No transfuse from the Queens, and MMA in a good position to do some serious damage to this 3rd base.
There are a few Queens up now, and MMA is going to have to run away, but once he gets far enough away, he can start to cloak up once again. And he's continuing to add on 2 Banshees at a time. He'll be on a total of 8 here very, very soon.
Also taking a 3rd base, too, behind all this, and the engineering base, like you mentioned, are going to give him some decent upgrades. So at the very least, MMA is pretty safe at this point in the game, and look at this, trying to sneak around the back to the main base. The Overlord does see it, and DRG does have some Spore Crawlers and Queens in position, but he's still going to take some damage.
And there's still a sweet spot here. Nice transfusion. Nice transfusion does keep the Queen alive, but it's going to die here pretty quickly. One of the Banshees does fall, though. The Queen finally does go down, and a few drones are going to go along with that.
Yep, that's right. MMA not even bothering to cloak. I mean, the Queens can see them anyway, and DRG with just so many Queens able to hold this off, no problem at all.
Actually, how many Queens are up? 8 Queens in total. No, we got to watch the rally point on those Banshees.
Yep,
so
got to be careful.
Half damage before it actually makes it away. He can turn around and engage on that Queen, though, if he wanted.
Yeah, you know, the nice thing for MMA, though, is that he has been able to continue his SCV production, picking off another Queen right there. It looks like, yes, he does get it before she gets away. and DRG having to spend a lot of money on things, again, that are not drones.
Oh, when he may be able to get a hatchery, it's down to just 100 hit points,
so
and it
low.
falls. So
Wow.
MMA able to knock out a hatchery with those Banshees as well, still doing some pretty significant damage.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, DRG is spending a ton on these queens to stay safe, and MMA has a strong wall as well. DRG, no Zergling counterattacks for him.
Now, both these guys, macro, falling a little bit out of shape as all of this went on.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
They were over 1,300 minerals apiece there a second ago, but looks like they got things in check now that things have settled down for just a bit. These 5 Banshees returning home at the moment, and MMA will be able to stabilize on a bit better infrastructure. We can see a ton of barracks coming
No
up.
kidding. So here's the big thing right now. DRG's got some Mutalisks coming out on the map very, very soon, and MMA, you know, his Marine count could be a little bit higher, and the Banshees can't shoot the Mutalisks, so they will die very, very quickly if they do come into contact with them. And DRG has a big Zergling force ready to continue harassing as well.
Yeah, and there are tanks up now, and Siege mode is finished, so MMA actually with a tank position here, which looks like that's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Siege will be able to hold on to that base pretty well against Zergling counterattacks.
Yeah.
However, DongRaeGu just sitting on 2 bases at the moment. MMA just establishing his 3rd with a plethora of resources available, but still, very crazy cool game so far.
You know, MMA and DRG both really testing each other's multitasking. MMA with the Marines and Banshee pushing. DRG with always having a big group of Speedlings in position to counterattack. If MMA doesn't pay attention for just a split second and leaves a supply depot down, leaves a gap in his wall, DRG is right there ready for it. Now it looks like MMA is able to stabilize a little bit. DRG retaking his 3rd, taking a 4th as well, but things still very, very tense here. MMA actually with a bit of a supply lead right now.
No kidding. What a crazy game we've seen so far. So is there anything obvious that DongRaeGu is saving up for at the moment? Not really, but he does have 12 active creep tumors at a time, so his creep spread, he wants to make sure he gets it out there as quickly as possible. Some players have even been able to deny 4ths just based on creep spread very, very quickly. So cool stuff to see. DongRaeGu retaking his 3rd right now and does have his 4th up, but of course MMA sitting comfortably on 3 bases.
Yeah, that's right. So MMA is in a great position. I mean, DRG did pick this map, but generally Terrans do kind of like it. I mean, you can get 3 bases fairly early. Oh, the Banshees are cloaked, but there is an Overseer there, so the Mutalisks do see them anyway.
Oh, wow. That one actually gets away with 5 hit points there. So DongRaeGu losing that. It looks like the Overseer wasn't able to chase it down. The Banshee got just out of range. So,
lucky Banshee.
Yeah, no kidding. MMA actually keeping all of those alive.
Not bad at all. Supply-wise, both players still very, very even. MMA getting a lot of upgrades, too, for his Marines, so the Mutalisks are not going to be able to engage in direct combat. The Marines would just tear them up way too fast.
Yeah, that's right. So now I've got to say MMA's defensive position is pretty cool. He doesn't have that many tanks out there, only 3, and that's kind of the drawback right now. But he's got bunkers pretty much everywhere. He's well covered with missile turrets and Marines as well. So DongRaeGu is certainly going to have to work to be able to kind of force anything at his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of how a lot of these series with these 2 players end up. They both are able to take games off each other, make it a very close series either way, and still an extremely close game here on Cloud Kingdom. Banshee's doing some more damage there.
And we do have +2 Carapace, so the Banshees actually take 3 hits and kill each of the workers, so it does actually take a while for those to go down.
It does help, yeah.
And let's see now, Thor's tanks, bunch of Marines coming up for DongRaeGu. Wants to make sure that he has a pretty fair amount of Thors as well, but the amount of Zerglings that DongRaeGu has out on the field may be a little bit of a problem as time goes on.
And I think we're going to see a lot of Banelings really soon, too, from him. He's just waiting for a time where he can morph those in. He's got the gas saved up to do it, and he's already got a decent amount of Banelings out on the map, too. So this is a strong, maxed-out army from DRG. But MMA, catching some queens off guard, but DRG going for the counterattack. He wants to crush this 3rd base.
There's still a tank sitting on the high ground here, but the Mila should be able to deal with that pretty quickly. It has racked up a few kills. It looks like MMA is forced to turn around and go home, and DongRaeGu is going to kill so many workers as he runs away.
Terrible, terrible damage done by MVP.DongRaeGu to Slayers. MMA needs to come home all the way. Takes out a good amount of Mutalisks here, but getting that 3rd base shut down, losing all those SCVs, really, really hurts MMA.
Yes, it does. How many workers, in fact, were killed? 28 workers altogether. The Banshee's still killing things in the middle of the map, though. It's 75 workers to 42 at the moment, but supplies aren't all that dissimilar, which means that MMA has a massive army advantage right now.
Oh, yeah, and those Marines are going to do damage so quickly. If DRG is in the wrong place at the wrong time for even a split second, he's going to lose a ton. But look at this, just like in the game before, with the low siege tank count that MMA has, DRG can try to exploit that by having a lot more Banelings than you normally could. We may even see him produce a few more here.
And 13 more work coming up, and it looks like he's going to try and morph in a couple more, but he is actually out of gas at the moment, so he's going to have to stop with 28 banelings for the time being. Here comes MMA, though, rolling through, like we said, really, really strong army on his part. He is actually dropping down to the left, but that's going to get picked up on pretty quick.
Yep, that'll get cleaned up by DRG. Oh, MMA taking out a couple units that got a little bit overbold, but there are infestors out now for DongRaeGu. If MMA's not careful, he could get some of his Marines trapped by that fungal growth spell from the infestors.
MMA and DongRaeGu are both max, but once again, look at that, 34 workers down for MMA. He's going to have a harder time replacing this army, but he is going to have a much stronger force going into an eventual engagement.
Yeah, what a crazy game. MMA with a great position in the middle of the map there. Oh, losing a few Marines out of position here, and there we go. MMA needing to run back. That Thor a little bit out of position too, but DRG running right into the army.
Yes, he is, and I can't help but think that MMA intended for that a little bit. Wanted to try and catch some high-value units, and on top of that,
where are those drones going, by the way?
Sacrificing themselves.
I guess so, yeah.
He wants some more units out there.
Yep, he's got an Ultralisk Cavern on the way, too. He wants to be able to make a ton of higher-tech units.
And DongRaeGu going to try and run around from the side. He may be able to catch these units off guard. No, looks like MMA, they're in position in plenty of time.
Yep. So DRG still trying to find the perfect engagement spot, but he is down 30 supply to Slayers MMA. Oh, here comes DRG. Does he have enough to hold this off? So many Banelings. Oh, the fungal growth trapping some Marines.
Yeah, the fungal growth trapped a lot of Marines, but the Banelings kind of wasted themselves on Thors a little bit. And it looks like he was able to clean up this attack over here on the left-hand side as well, but MMA still has a considerable force left over that was sitting back at home.
Yeah, he does. And remember, DRG sacrificed a lot of those drones, maybe not at the best time. We'll have to see what happens here. I mean, MMA still just one, dangerous Baneling encounter away from losing this game, but he's got a chance to win it too. Things still so close. This game is just on a razor's edge, man. I mean, the smallest mistake by either player is going to mean the difference between victory and defeat.
All right, well, DongRaeGu loses 4 Banelings to one shot there from the siege tank, or from 2 shots from the siege tank, I guess I should say.
That's bad, man.
Yeah.
It's valuable.
It is. That's a lot of gas that's put in there as well. 100 gas, 100 minerals, plus the 50 minerals for the Zerglings themselves.
Oh, that counterattack from DRG. Is MMA prepared back at his third base for this? No, in fact, he's running away his SCVs. He's just going to go ahead and abandon that for a little while, send them down to his 4th base in the lower right part. Going to go ahead and sacrifice a couple supply depots.
Yeah.
No problem. Oh, he finds this base.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to take that out. So denial of a base for a kill of a base, but of course DongRaeGu is still sitting on 5 bases altogether. This planetary fortress is not quite finished up. However, MMA is running back with a lot of forces, but none of the tanks are sieged up, but it's still too much, and the Zerglings have to run away. Planetary fortress finishes up.
The damage could have been worse for MMA, but DRG just right now scrambling to try to find an opportunity to hold his opponent back. He's got Ultralisks on the way, but when you have Ultralisks coming in when you're at a supply disadvantage in Zerg versus Terran, they're very, very much less effective than they would normally be. MMA needs to lift this command center. Whoa! Wow. MMA not paying attention, just letting that die there.
Oh, those Zerglings are so powerful right now on 2-2 upgrade. So MMA does let that die, and that's a little bit of a blunder from him. He's certainly going to need another command center here very quickly. May even use his main in just a second.
Yeah, where are the infestors for DRG as well? How many does he have out on the map? He
3.
Only has 3. Okay. So the infestor count is a little bit lower. Remember, he needs those infestors to hold MMA's army in place with that fungal growth spell. If he doesn't get good fungal growth, if MMA splits correctly, he's going to be able to handle this. He's got a 40 supply lead, and even with those Ultralisks, all MMA needs to do is win this last engagement, and he will be in prime position to win this game.
And DongRaeGu checking on a 3rd base once again, but it's not there. All of MMA's mining efforts are focused over at this planetary fortress off to the side. He has a little bit going on to the natural, but that's really about all. Whoa, Ultralists have to watch out there. They will die very quick, very exposed like that to these Thors.
No kidding. I mean, DRG has to be so careful. I'm so surprised about the decision to go for Ultralisks in this situation. I think he thought he had his opponent a little bit more hurt than he really was. Nice scam from MMA, taking out a lot of those creep tumors. Going to reduce the creep, but that's the chance for DRG to move in.
And let's see here, the Ultras actually absorbing quite a bit of damage. A good fungal growth pinning down a lot of units, but all the Banelings were destroyed before. There's GG. We're going to game number 5.
MMA coming back from being down 2-0, tying it up 2-2. He is not going down without a fight. And